ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 704 once again for episode 195 of the 815 Exchange. And well, I told you it was coming. I said changes were coming, and well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a couch has returned. We are back on a couch, no desk, no mic. We're using the camera mic. So yeah, a little bit of a scenery change. We are back live from the 704, first time in a very, very, very long time. But yeah, we'll be going live from the 704 a lot more frequently, and a lot more regularly from this point forward. But yeah, 704, and my goodness, what a week! All right, what a week! What a week we have to talk. We don't have like 50,000 topics to talk about. Like I don't have that many major segments this week. But we got the NFL draft. We've got NBA playoffs, especially what after transpired last night in the NBA playoffs. We have to talk about that. We have some stuff in entertainment like the end of Shogun. I mean, we got plenty to talk about. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. And as always, timestamps are provided in the description and embedded in the video. It's long form content. Feel free to skip ahead to whatever you came to see me talk about, whatever you came to watch. So yeah, let's get comfortable. We start off with the NFL draft. We're gonna let the NBA have the main events. So yeah, get comfortable, get your drink. I got my water over here. Go get some food, whatever you're doing. Get comfy. Let's settle in. And let me warm up with the NFL draft, which started off. It was simultaneously very chalk, very chalk, very akin to the mock drafts until a very certain point in that top 10, but also was very chaotic. We had a couple records fall in that first round, though. 6 quarterbacks. Now, some part due to this being, expected to be one of the best quarterback classes we may ever see, enter the NFL game. Simultaneously, also because, let's be honest, next year's quarterback class is not looking great at the current moment. I think Shedeur Sanders, no offense to Shedeur, he may end up being a great quarterback. Of course, we got a year to see and find out him, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, so on and so forth, to see if they can prove themselves worthy of being, one of those first-round QBs. But if right now, at this point in time, Shedeur is the number 1 overall pick, then that should let you know the difference between this year's quarterback class and next year's quarterback class, and why so many teams were so kind of insistent on going out and getting a quarterback this year. So yeah, we had 6 quarterbacks go in the top 10, and then we had the longest stretch between quarterbacks following that. But yeah, we got Caleb, of course. He goes to Chicago. No surprises there. We're going to talk about their draft. JD, yes, Jaden Daniels, widely expected, the reigning defending Heisman winner of LSU. He goes to the Commanders. Also, pretty it's nothing different about what we expected. Number 3, though. Number 3, a lot of people wondering, would J.J. McCarthy go here? Would it be Drake May? I think Drake was dealing with a little bit, to be completely honest. I think Drake was dealing with a little bit. He could have gone 2. But I think he was dealing with a little bit of, prospect fatigue. He didn't have this great scintillating season at North Carolina that obviously Jaden had at LSU, that Caleb has had the past 2 years at USC. So obviously fell out kind of that, top quarterback conversation, but, still one of the premier prospects. But May goes 3rd to New England. I think it's a perfect fit. I do not know, like, it worked out. I don't know how it worked out like that, because I remember us joking last year, like, oh man, imagine if Drake went to New England, right? Imagine if Belichick, who unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you feel in Boston, is no longer there. But we were joking, what if he gets Drake May? Drake May just seems like a Patriot. So yeah, that's how that worked out. They also went later on to go get Joe Milton, so we'll see how that goes. That could be like the RG3 Kirk Cousins situation. We will see though. But yeah, Drake goes there to New England. The big shock of the first round and the big shock possibly of the draft was Michael Penix going to the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, we made a huge deal in free agency about Kirk Cousins getting all of that money to go be the starting quarterback at Atlanta. And a lot of people were surprised by this pick. I was not. I think I was maybe surprised that they went with Penix, not because of his ability or anything, but just because situationally. I wasn't surprised to see them go with a quarterback. I expected it. But I thought maybe they'd go with, JJ, because, he's one of the younger quarterbacks. I think he might be the youngest quarterback out of the 6. You can sit him for a little bit. People think he might need to sit anyway. Let him develop under Kirk. Let him learn. And then you give him the reins in, 2-3 years, and then he takes over. Penix is I think he turns 24 this week. Him and Bo are the oldest, right? And Penix has some mileage on him in terms of injuries. Of course, we've got the 3 season-ending injuries. 4 of his seasons, he had an injury period that took him out for a substantial amount of time. It's an interesting thing. You know, if Penix can stay healthy, it might work out. Of course, Kirk coming off at that age, at 36, coming off a torn Achilles, that's never a guarantee. So I don't blame the Falcons for going and getting that safety net. But, you know, you could argue that they could have gone and got Dallas Turner or Latu or whoever their top defender was, or gone and got a weapon for Kirk, you know. There's a lot of different arguments that could play there, but I understand the logic of getting Penix, but I also understand why people are like, yo, I don't know if I'd have gone with that direction. But I mean, Penix was a rock star at Washington. He was a very, very good player. I know he didn't have a great national championship, and I think, you know, that combined with his age, his injury history, dropped him a little bit. But yeah, let's not forget. I know he played with Rome and McMillan, and I said it all in Polk. And all through the year, I said it, yo, he's got some great receivers, but you know what, Penix? He's a dog. We'll see what he can do in Atlanta. I think it's a good, you know, culture fit, you know, Durag Myke and ATL, that should be fun. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long it takes for him to get that starting job and kind of how that plays out. But that was the big shock in the first round. J.J. McCarthy ends up going to Minnesota, which had Vikings fans in bliss because they got the guy that they wanted in the first place. We'll see how that works out. Like I said, Cousins is now in Atlanta. You know, JJ might be thrust into a starting role. How can he handle that? Of course, he's got Jettas, which is about as good as a weapon as you can get as a rookie quarterback. And to cap it all off, Bo Nix heads over to Denver. Sean Payton apparently really, really wanted Bo Nix. I'm gonna hold off on too much Bo Nix slander. You know, I think he's definitely the weakest of the 6. But you know what? Maybe he works out. He's also the oldest. So again, we will see. All right, we will see. I think Denver just kind of has this stench on them right now as a franchise that I can't really shake off in terms of QB development and just kind of how the past couple of years have played out for them in terms of, you know, the Russ situation and the failed, you know, building of that team. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Sean wanted him really bad. He got his guy. We'll see what Bo Nix can do in Denver. That is not a great quarterback room, though, I will say. Also in the first round, we had a record 14 straight offensive players before we had a defender, which... not that this is necessarily a bad... I mean, there's some good defensive players in this class, but yeah, that was still a little bit shocking to see 14 straight... Yeah, I mean, that's unheard of. Unheard of. Not even like a defensive end or lineman, you know, going, you know, in that top 10. So yeah, unheard of kind of run right there. 14 straight offensive players to kick off the draft as well. Before the Colts eventually picked up Latu, who the only reason he really fell, let's be honest, because of the next situation. So yeah, wishing him the best in the health. I can do that now that he is no longer a UCLA Bruin. Let's talk about my winners, though. There were a couple teams that stood out. All right, I highlighted 4 teams that I think have really good drafts, the ones that you'd give the A+, the passing grades to. Chicago, obviously, I think absolutely. I mean, they bodied it in the first 2 picks. I literally couldn't have gone better for the Chicago Bears. The Carolina Panthers, oh my gosh. It was a horror. I mean, the Panthers have not stopped taking L's, respectfully, since David Tepper took over. It has just been a series of, literally a series of unfortunate events. Shouts to the classic book series, because it's just been bad. It's just been bad here in the 704. L after L after L after L. Now, hopefully, XL, you know, Xavier Legette, can start turning this around, and Bryce can, you know, with some more help, you know, we can start turning the wheels again. But boy, oh boy, that trade right now, currently, is looking god-awful for the Panthers because the Bears cashed out. Of course, they got Caleb with the Panthers pick, number 1 overall. You got it made there. Of course, we saw what they did in free agency. They went and got DeAndre Swift. They went and got Keenan Allen. Of course, they had DJ Moore last year. Cole Kmet. They've done a great job building that team. And what do you do to put the cherry on top to make sure that Caleb has the best situation possible? You go and get Rome Odunze. And I'm going to be honest, the Bears didn't even hide their draft strategy. They did not even hide it. It was blatant. I mean, if it was the NBA, Adam Silver would have had them on tampering because Caleb and they were literally practicing with Keenan and I think DJ as well. Earlier in the week, they were on the same flight. It was just kind of meant to be. But yeah, Caleb, Rome. I think if Rome Odunze was a USC Trojan, then Caleb Williams might have 2 Heismans right now. So yeah, that should let you know Rome, one of the elite wide receiving prospects. Really, you know, the big 3 of Marv, Rome, and, you know, neighbors who we'll talk about. But yeah, you get Caleb and Rome in the, you know, top 10. You got it made. Then they went later on and got Torrey Taylor, of course, the superstar punter out of Iowa. You got a 4K passer and a 4K punter in the same draft, and you're doing well. But yeah, Torrey, probably likely going to immediately transition. Of course, it doesn't always happen like that, but should be one of the best punters in the league. And, he was a game changer at Iowa, which is a crazy thing to say for a punter, but he was a game changer. So even though Caleb says, you're not going to punt very much, that is still an asset to have, having to Torrey, Rome, Caleb. That's a great draft grade for me for the Bears. The Philadelphia Eagles, as much as it disgusts me, can absolutely do no wrong in the offseason. I mean, Howie can do no wrong. Contrary to Jerry Jones doing absolutely nothing, Howie just he can't miss. The Eagles cannot miss in the offseason. They didn't miss in free agency, and Lord knows they didn't miss here in the draft. How do you get the top 2 corners, arguably, bar maybe Terrion Arnold, who we're going to talk about, and the Lions draft, who did well once again. But how do you get Quinyon Mitchell and Caleb and Cooper DeJean in the same draft? How do you get the number 1 and number 2 corners potentially in the same draft? They had a weakness, a very clear weakness at cornerback, and boy, did they answer it. I mean, and some. 2 guys that could very much so go on to be all-pro corners one day. So yeah, I mean, from there, we're very similar to what's happened with the Bears. First 2 picks, knocked it out of the park, set the tone for the rest of the draft. They went and got Ananias Smith, another weapon. They got Will Shipley out of Clemson. Went a little Clemson crazy. Not the only ones. I remember, who was it that went and got like 50 LSU players? I forget. I think it might have been the Colts. They got like 3 or 4 different LSU players. But yeah, got Will Shipley. Good backup to have, behind Saquon, even though the Eagles are not, in a drought of running backs. But Shipley, baby CMC, could definitely do damage there. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., following his father's footsteps at the Eagles. Ran that awful 40, but he was a dog at Clemson. We'll see what happens there. Johnny Wilson was a major asset. I mean, at 6'7" or whatever, 6'6", whatever Johnny's claiming to be, with that length, him as a red zone target was, near unstoppable at FSU. He's going to be a weapon in the NFL. I think used correctly, if Sirianni can get that done, then, that could definitely be an asset. Interesting. He might even move to tight end. We'll be shocked to see that. But yeah, Johnny Wilson, Trotter, Ananias, Shipley, Cooper, Quinyon. A+, easy. The Detroit Lions also bodied, again, another similar to the Eagles. Every single year, they're going out and just bodying free agency. They're bodying the draft. They got the culture fit. It's done. All right. Dan Campbell, once again, cooked up. Terrion Arnold, once again, is a great fit. Very physical corner. Very good coverage corner. Had 6 interceptions last year at Bama. Stole. All right. He snatched Kool-Aid's chain as the number 1 corner at that, in the South. All right. Snatched Kool-Aid's chain, but, TA, he goes in the first round to them. They then went and got Rackstraw out of Mississippi State, another very, very, very good corner. So, yeah, answered that issue right there immediately. They also got Sione Vakai, who we talked about at Utah. He was a 2-way player, safety, running back. Probably going to mostly play safety, but those ball skills that you get at running back, I think, going to come very, very handy. That line secondary has been, very, very much so fulfilled. I think it became a little bit of a weakness in the playoffs there, but they did a great job answering the call here in the draft with a lot of great young talent. Mekhi Wingo was a very, very, very talented defensive tackle at LSU, causing a lot of havoc under Dan Campbell. That could be something special. And of course, Christian Mahogany was not even supposed to be there at whatever, the 6th round, whenever they got him. I don't know how he fell that far, but anyways, they got, more offensive line help. Dan Campbell doing what Dan Campbell does. Great job from the Lions. The Rams got both of the FSU boys. All right, they got Verse and Fisk. So they'll be playing together. Really emotional moment that the NFL showed there and the Rams showed. So that was nice. Blake Corum might be running back 1. I know there's some questions about his burst, about his size, even though he's inhumanly strong, similar to like a Doug Martin back in the day. But, I really have no worries about Corum. I think he's just one of those guys that's just going to produce what type of volume he produces at. With the mileage, we'll see. But, I think that was a great job from the Rams. By the way, this was Sean McVay's first time picking a first rounder. And the Rams' first rounder since 2016, which is crazy. Nearly 10 years without first rounder is asinine. But the Rams made it work, obviously. He got a chip in that period of time. A very, very, very good team. So, hey, no complaints there. They also got Davis, Jordan Whitnam out of Texas as well, Cam Kitchens. They did a really good job with the draft, and they're one of their first actual drafts where they really kind of took part of. So yeah, how about that for the Rams? Did a very good job. They get, another A grade for me for the draft. And to kind of cap this, NFL draft segment off, talking about the receivers, of course, Marv ends up going, I think, 4th overall to the Cardinals. Huge pickup for Kyler. Also just a big moment for Kyler in terms of the Cardinals very clearly showing, there was a lot of time when the Cardinals, were in that #1 overall pick. Are they picking Caleb? Do you pick Caleb? Do you do what, the Bears do? Trade, your young starting quarterback in that aspect was Justin Fields, but for the Cardinals would have been Kyler. Do you trade and pick Caleb? And ultimately, they went and they stuck with their guy, which I think is the right decision. I think Kyler's a fine quarterback. I think he can still be a very good quarterback. And I think getting him a weapon like Marvin Harrison Jr., who could be generational, is a very big step. So, yeah, that'll be fun to see how that combination goes in Arizona. Lab McConkey and B. Rice going to the Chargers. And they needed this, by the way. I mean, desperately. The Chargers had nobody. I think me and you were like about 1 week away from getting a call. All right, we were 1 week away from getting a call from LA, and we gonna have to fly out and play receiver for the Chargers because that's how bad the depth chart was in LA. But they answered it here in the draft. Lab McConkey, that 4-3 just kind of threw everybody off at the draft. But you know what? The route running has been there. The speed, you can see it on tape. He was a very solid, very reliable receiver at Georgia. We will see what he can do. Maybe be potentially, a Puka situation there. Brendan Rice falls all the way to, I think, the 7th round. So, yeah, Brendan's got a lot to prove. I see why he fell, but also at the same time, he was still a very good receiver, and I think a better receiver than some of the guys that went over him. So, B. Rice, very emotional week, by the way, losing his brother and just everything that happened there. So, he's got a lot to prove. Wishing the best. Fight on as always. And to end this NFL draft segment, I literally have to ask, because I would be wrong if I didn't. Can somebody please explain to me how in the hell we let the Kansas City Chiefs, it was the most obvious pick. And the Buffalo Bills, once again, they're Kansas City's bitch. Simply put, they're Kansas City's bitch. I don't know why they always bow down. They always kiss the ring. You traded back so the Chiefs could trade up. And you were about to pick a receiver anyway. You did that solely so they could do and pick the one receiver that we needed the Chiefs to absolutely not get, which is Xavier Worthy, the fastest man ever at the Combine, the fastest receiver and possibly fastest player in football, is now a Kansas City Chief. Just great. Just phenomenal job, Buffalo. Just a great job. Now Mahomes has his Cheetah 2.0, even though they are different players. I do want to clarify, very different players. Not very, but they're different players. Certain things Cheetah obviously does at a much higher level than X, and there's certain things that X, does differently. I won't necessarily say better, but differently than Cheetah. That are still assets. But yeah, Kansas City somehow got their guy. Bills, why did you do this to us? And yeah, that could be very, very, very dangerous in Kansas City if Xavier Worthy can get healthy and can perform and not be a John Ross situation. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But the NFL draft has came and it is gone. You can let me know how you felt about your team's picks. But yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, entertainment. Like I said, we don't have that many main subjects. We just got a lot to talk about. So we already here in entertainment, already here at the midway point. And unfortunately, once again, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Shogun and you want to watch Shogun, once again, I will give you the 5-second warning for spoilers to close your ears, turn something up, or just simply skip ahead in the video because my goodness. All right, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, bye. Okay. After Crimson Sky last week where Anna Sawai, once again, I just want to say Anna needs to win an Emmy for that. For her entire role, honestly, throughout the entire show. In Shogun, she deserves to win it. I'm just saying. I know y'all submitted it for consideration, but, Emmy committee, Academy, it needs to happen. All right? Just saying. But yeah, Shogun season, at least, I don't know if we're getting another season, but you know what? I'll just say season 1 finale, what we're going to call it. Tornega wins. Simply put, that's what happened. After Mariko's death, which was used perfectly as a tool by Tornega, this was just him taking a dub and just sitting on the throne, essentially as, Proto Shogun, and just, watching all of his enemies fall. Ashido, of course, after, Mariko dies and, hey, we don't feel safe, he loses all of his allies. He uses his about-to-be wife and just falls apart. He just takes an L. We don't need to see a big battle. Bro is just finished. All right, Ashido wiped off the board. Clinical work. All right, clinical work from Tornega. He wasn't done though. Blackthorn is manipulated into thinking that Mariko sold her, life for Blackthorn to, Mariko made a deal to save his life for his ships, which is not the case. That was what Tornega did. But you know what? It's, another way to keep Blackthorn here, which is what Tornega is, intending to do. He has had no intention ever really of ever giving those ships back or anything of that, sort. Blackthorn, you were here. You were going to be my captain. I'm going to use you however I need to ensure peace in Japan. So yeah, Blackthorn got cooked. A very good performance, by the way, from Cosmo in this episode. Very emotional episode, obviously, with Blackthorn dealing with the grief. We got to see that. A very Blackthorn-centric episode, along with him and Tornega, kind of to, premiere as the premier characters here in the finale, but well deserved. But yeah, seeing how Blackthorn also was interesting in the flashbacks, which I think were kind of meant to throw us off a little bit, because you see in that opening flashback, he still has, Mariko's cross, but then at the end of the episode, in the last scene, he drops it into the water, which tells you that, those flashbacks were not completely accurate. It doesn't seem like Blackthorn ever made it back. What happened with that? Of course, there's more to talk about in the book. So we'll see if we get season 2 and get those questions answered. But yeah, very interesting storyline there with Blackthorn that kind of gets closed up, but also kind of re-enters. And of course, Yabushige had to die. Unfortunately, he didn't get to die in, the great way that he was begging, for his book. But, still went out in a very Yabu way to Tornega. That little smirk as he looked back before Tornega, did what he has to do as his second. But yeah, Yabu, still some great quotes. Tornega telling him, why would I ever tell a dead man the future? What does it matter to you? But yeah, Shogun, what a show. Great show. There's nothing else I can say about it besides go watch it. All right, they're not paying me to say that. FX is not paying me to say that. Hulu's not paying me to say that. But go watch it, because it was a very, very good show. Great performances all around from a lot of, very, very good actors that you may or may not know. But yeah, Shogun, very good show. Very good finale. I hope we get a season 2. Now, music. No update, by the way. No, and we might not have any more updates, because I really, the only spice was from Quavo and CB's side, and apparently CB may or may not have pulled the old classic, we've seen, past rappers like, a 50 Cent or Drake do, where I'm going to buy up all the tickets at this concert and you are going to perform in front of absolutely nobody. Apparently he may have did that to Quavo. So yeah, that's the really only thing going on in the rap civil war. Kendrick has still not respond. Taylor did in fact mop him up and sold like almost 2 million copies, which hasn't been done since Adele. So, shout out to T Swift. Yeah, Kendrick is nowhere to be found. Drake is now bored. And the rap civil war is now becoming Cold War once again. So what else is happening in music? Going over to the British side of things. Famous Girl, Aitch, another single, another hit. The man it's a printer. It's a printer. That EP, by the way, was one of my favorite EPs that he dropped at the end of last year. That was perfecto. And he keeps the run going. Famous Girl, more heat. I need him to drop a full-length project this year. All right, so Aitch, if you could do that, much appreciated. Much appreciated, my boy. Of course, the most anticipated drop this week, I think, was Tommy Richman. All right, the song $1 Million Baby been going crazy on TikTok, and then he dropped the full version, which, sometimes with those kind of snippets that go viral, the verses don't hit the same, and it's just like, you know what, we just gonna stick with the little snippet, and that's just going with how we going. But I think Tommy delivered. Of course, he kind of had a little bit of a, was making some noise, kind of underground, and then had some more fame hopping on Brent's album last year. And of course, we had the build up to $1 Million Baby. And I think he came through. Very good track. Probably one of my favorite songs of the week that I listened to. So, yeah, I think he came through. It was only 2 minutes and 36 seconds, but, what do you expect in modern times? Didn't do anything crazy on the verses. I think they were solid. Of course, that chorus is money. So, yeah, $1 Million Baby, Tony Richman gets the cosign. ADIVINO as well, by Myke Towers and Bad Bunny. I also listened to this week. Was absolutely fire. Benito can do no wrong. It's why he's at the top of the game. That's all that needs to be said. Yeah, Myke did his thing too. So yeah, ADIVINO also gets the cosign, and that was entertainment, which of course brings us to the National Basketball Association for the main event of the evening. And before we get to what Anthony Edwards, aka Michael Jordan's son, did, we got to build up to it. Of course. First round is coming to a close. We're hitting the apex. We're hitting the climax here of the first round. Some teams are gone. There's a lot of 3-1s. There's some 2-2s, and hell, there's even some 3-0s. So let's talk about it. Orlando and Cleveland are now stuck into a 2-2 after Orlando strikes back. All right, Cleveland had a lot of that early momentum, especially last week. We talked about them winning game 1. What that meant, Orlando and Jalen Suggs said, hold up. We ain't going out like that. Franz Wagner went off. All right, went off in game 4. He goes for 34 and 13. The development, that 2020 class, somehow, some way, even though there's been some, mistakes, there's been some mishaps, of all of that top 5 has shown, to be almost what we expected that top 5 to be. So yeah, shout out to Franz, 34 and 13 there. Jonathan Isaac, as much as, we don't really like Jonathan Isaac. Mo Wagner, the other Wagner brother, and of course, Markelle Fultz were all a plus 20 in this game. And it just kind of shows Orlando took control of this game, dominated, played great defense, played with great effort. And of course, when Franz is going off like that, it's going to be a very difficult team to beat when they're playing that well defensively as well. So yeah, they get it done. Jared Allen had 21 and 9, but it was not enough. The Cavs now are stuck with a tied series. That might be a very, very good one we got brewing between Orlando and Cleveland. OKC. Yeah, no, it's done. It is done. There's nothing else really to be said, ladies and gentlemen. It's done. All right, 106-85. I know it's not 4-0. It's not a sweep yet. We don't have to break out the broomstick yet on the show. No broomsticks yet. But for all intents and purposes, ladies and gentlemen, it's done. It's wrapped up. It's over. All right. Shy didn't even go for 30 this game, and they still won by 20. All right, 24, 5, 8, and 4 steals for Shy. It's just usual stuff at SGA. This is just normal. This is normal. P. Giddy is what we've named him now, which is a wild nickname for Josh Giddey. But you know what? P. Giddy goes for 21, 8, and 6. He was cooking New Orleans. And when he hit that behind the back, that's that kind of the point where you just kind of knew that this game was, pretty much set in point. And really this series, if we're being honest. Jay Will, the other young star of a team of young stars, which is what this Nugget team is, 21, 9, and 5. Again, still no Zion for New Orleans, which means this is over. All right, simply put, this series is over. I think they're going for the sweep tonight. But yeah, OKC, New Orleans, easy work for the Thunder. They will be advancing. Boston and Miami. It's really, you know what? I gotta give credit to Spo. I will give Spo his flowers as probably the premier coach currently in the NBA. So I will give Spo his flowers. But let's be honest. Miami is not playing with Boston. They are not. This is levels. All right, there's levels. This game 3, was a levels game. All right, Boston gets it done. Another 20-point win, 104-84. JT had 22, 11, and 6. JB had 22 and 8. Bam had 20 and 9. But of course, Jimmy Buckets is currently out with a sprained MCL. So very similar to New Orleans. It's just the difference is that the Heat have Spo, and that's pretty much it, to be honest. All right, this is another number 1 going to demolish number 8 seed. Unfortunately, it won't be a sweep here. It will be 5. So yeah, Miami will lose with some dignity, maybe a gentleman's sweep, but that is all it's going to be. All right, that's all it's going to be. Once again, this is done. This is just a sign of things to come for Miami. So yeah, congrats for, that 1 win, but let's be real, Boston's got this done. LA, listen, I had no faith. But the King proved me wrong. AD proved me wrong. This is honestly, besides the fact that, the Lakers were on the verge of being swept, this has been one of the most entertaining series. Also, the fact that the Nuggets have led virtually none of this series, but are still up 3-0, or were up 3-0. They're now 3-1 after this game. But yeah, have led virtually like 15 minutes of game time, but are up 3-1, which is crazy, but shows the bigger problem, which is the Lakers have not finished games. That has been the recurring issue. They've been able to keep up with the Nuggets in some aspects, even with, D'Lo not playing well, AR not playing, the supporting cast outside of LeBron and AD really doing relatively nothing for the Lakers. They've been going toe-to-toe with the Nuggets. It's just when the fourth quarter comes, they got nothing. They're unable to close the game. The difference in game 4 was the Lakers closed this game. 119-108, they get it done. Bron took over. He ends up with 30 points in this game. But yeah, this was classic LeBron. Why he's one of the greatest to ever do it. Why he might be your GOAT. This was everything. The GOAT showed up in the fourth quarter, and that is what happened to the Nuggets. He was closing this game out, and he was not getting swept. AD deserves absolutely no slander. Absolutely no slander, regardless of what happens tonight or going forward, or if they lose the series in 7, or if they, whatever. Doesn't matter. AD deserves no slander for this series. The man has been going crazy. All right, as much as I'm ready to brag about Joker, I got to give my flowers to AD because he has been superhuman. Averaging like 30 and 17 for the series. In game 4, he was big time. He had 25, 23, and 6, which is a 2K big man stat line. But nonetheless, Anthony Davis showing why he is one of the best players in the world and one of the best bigs in the world. He's going toe-to-toe with Jokic and putting up these numbers. You got to give him his flowers. Again, another difference maker for the Lakers was the fact that AR and D'Lo finally showed up. All right, it's been a long time. They needed to show up. Deloading especially has been horrendous in this series. But yeah, when they both go for 21, a combined 42 points, that is a difference maker for the Lakers. That was a big reason why they got this done and, prevented the sweep. Nikola Jokic is going to do what Nikola Jokic does, all right? 33, 14, and 14. Regular stuff for Joker. I don't need to hype it. This is what we expect at this point for the best player in the world. MPJ, once again, is a Laker killer. For whatever reason, he becomes what we expected MPJ to become. He does that against LA, 27 and 11. Easy work. Jamal Murray needs to, I can't even say it because he is what he is, all right? He is what he is, all right? He's going to give you 20. It might not be the most efficient 20. It's probably going to be like 8 and 20 or 9 and 20 efficiency, but it is what it is, all right? And at least it's consistent. He had 22 and 6 in this game, but like I said, not the most efficient night for Jamal and the Lakers. Like I said, everything worked. Everything came to fruition in game 4. We will see if they can keep it going and see how long they can extend the series, but I wouldn't put too much hope on it because the Nuggets are, of course, the championship favorites. Right? The reigning champs, they got the best player. They should win it this year. It's going to be a heartbeat, but you know what? We'll see what happens. The king survives to live another day. The New York Knicks. I saw Knicks fans in tears. I saw 76er fans in tears after this game. But I saw Knicks fans, real tears. They were broken up also on Twitter, all right? In the pain of the last eras, of all of the bad point guard play, essentially since Stephon Marbury, which some of you probably have no idea who Stephon Marbury is, which tells you how long it's been since the Knicks had a half-decent point guard. Besides that, one stretch, a long, long time ago where Jamie Lin was, one of the best players in the world. But besides then, it's been just pity, pain, and era after era after era after era. But unfortunately for Knicks haters, and fortunately for fans of the New York Knicks, ladies and gentlemen, Jalen Brunson is the savior. He is, in fact, the savior, and he has saved this Knicks franchise. And I don't care what Becky Hammond says, even though, credit, we love Becky. All right, we love Becky here on the Offseason Exchange. But I don't want to hear he can't be a number one option and win games. All right? I don't want to hear it. Until it's disproven, I don't want to hear it. When this man puts up 47-10 on 18 for 34, you got to give him his flowers, and you can't say nothing else. You can't say nothing else. The Sixers are getting smoked. The Knicks are up 3-1. Brunson, like I said, 47-10. Nearly dropped a 50 bomb on their heads in Philly. New York took over Philly, by the way. The fans took it over. Brunson took over Philly. Philly is now a subsidiary of New York, all right, and especially of the Knicks. Brunson dominated, like I said. Josh Hart is an anomaly and once again continues, like I said last week, this the continuity of, players leaving the Lakers and becoming better players. I don't know what it is. Josh Hart is another one. He had 17 rebounds. By the way, Josh Hart is 6'4". It's the effort, man. It's the effort. Embiid had a very unethical, which is normal, 27, 10, and 6. But the man who could have been the MVP this year if he hadn't gotten injured, and the man who dropped the worst 50 ball of all time last week, it was not to be. All right, the Sixers are cooked. They are cooked. The process is dead. I don't, find something else, something new. It's not happening. Forget about it. New York, 4-1 coming. Game 5 is going to be done. It's going to be wraps. Jalen Brunson is the savior. Congratulations to the Knicks. Welcome back to relevancy. The Clippers and the Mavericks continue to have the most bipolar series I've ever seen in my life. It is never a close. This one actually ended up being close, but either the Mavs blow out the Clippers or the Clippers blow out the Mavs. That's the way these two games have gone. Except yesterday, for some reason, the Mavs just turned it on and made it somewhat close. Thanks to Kyrie Irving, to be completely honest with you. But it was beautiful basketball. It was absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, aesthetically pleasing hoops that we saw between the Clippers and Lakers. The Clippers, not the Clippers and Lakers, but the Clippers and the Mavericks. The only problem was that, unfortunately, Luka Doncic was nowhere to be found in the fourth quarter, and that ended up being what cost Dallas 116-111. The Clippers tied the series in what was a massive, massive must-win game for them. PG went off 33-6-8. James Harden. The beard is back, apparently. I don't know what Kawhi... By the way, they're 2-0 without Kawhi. I don't know if Kawhi is the problem or if Kawhi somehow, some way has been the problem with this Clippers team the entire time. But for some reason, they start playing to their potential and James Harden becomes 2016 James Harden when he's not there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a chemistry thing or what. But yeah, Harden played out of his mind, 33-6-7. Him and Luka continue to go back and forth on that, a phantom. A Christ looks like a phantom until a phantom, pulls up, and right now they're going back and forth. So yeah, we will see who gets the upper hand then. But for now, it's Harden. Luka had 29, 10, and 10, but like I said, it was not enough. Kyrie balled out. He had a 40 ball in this game, 47-5. Normal stuff from KI in the playoffs. He was a man unchained, as usual in the clutch. Unfortunately, like I said, the Mavs just didn't have enough, to get it done around them. Had opportunities to, come back, pull off the 31-point comeback, but they could not do it. Clippers and PG, James Harden would not be denied. They tie up the series. All right, the Pacers. I mean, this game, it really should have been a sweep. Let's be real. It should have been a sweep. It should be a sweep. If this team does not have Giannis, it should be a sweep on paper for the Pacers, but the Pacers have been kind of underwhelming since, once again, the in-season tournament. I don't know what happened. They used up all their powers to make it to the Lakers, and the Lakers took them, and then they were kind of coasting the rest of the year. Whatever. But they are up 3-1 nonetheless. They get it done 126-113 here in Game 4. Miles Turner would not be stopped. He had 29 and 9 in this game. Absolutely, a filthy poster. If it wasn't for Anthony Edwards, probably the poster of the day yesterday on Brook Lopez. But nonetheless, Miles couldn't be stopped. Holly had 24. He has to play like a star. All right, he has to play. It is paramount for the Indiana Pacers if they want to be competitive against the Milwaukee Bucks that he has to play like a star. He was that guy in this game. He got it done. Chris Middleton had 25 and 10. Brook Lopez also had 24. But listen, no Dame, no Giannis. It's not happening. Similar to, like I said, for the Pelicans, similar to, like I said, for the Heat, even though they had less hope even with Jimmy, it's done. All right, it's done. Bucks, wrap it up. It just was not your year. Unfortunate, series of events, but it's K's, it's done. Indiana's got it in the bag. However, if they want to make anything happen, Holly has to play better. Has to play better. That's what I'll leave it on. But yeah, he has to play better. He played better in this game. Why they got the win alongside Miles Turner just kind of going off. But yeah, Pacers up 3-1. Can they close the deal? One team, just like the NHL, which we'll talk about in the roundup. One team had somebody had to get swept. We had to break out the broomstick for somebody. Somebody was getting swept. And ladies and gentlemen, it just might be the end of an era. Chef is in Cancun. KD is now in Cancun. Braun might be in Cancun soon, but yeah, Minnesota just snatched Phoenix's chain. Once again, it is another failed big three for the great Kevin Durant, even though I'm not putting this loss on KD by any means. But simply put, this definitely felt like not even really the passing of the torch. This was the snatching of the torch. A mugging of the torch. This is took you into a back alley, jumped you, and then took all of the torches. All right, that is what happened here in Game 4. The Minnesota Timberwolves get it done 122-116 after Phoenix had plenty opportunity to win this game, plenty opportunity to close this out. But Anthony Edwards, listen, I need somebody to tell me if Michael Jordan was in the city of Atlanta or the surrounding area at some point during December 2020. Because I have questions. I have questions. All right? Like why Myke has not claimed his illegitimate son who is going around and terrorizing the good people of Phoenix, Arizona. Because my goodness, Anthony Edwards looked like the reincarnate in this game. 49-5 in the way he closed this game. Bradley Beal is getting paid $50 million each of the next 3 years, and he looked like a vet min player. Bradley Beal's chain completely snatched. Aura gone. Aura gone. All the mystique, all of the star, all of the hype around just died. Anthony Edwards mugged it. All right, stole it from him. That blow by to pretty much put the dagger on, blows by Bill and then dunks on KD, legendary. Legendary. Ant-Man is Ant-Man. He's a superstar. And by the way, this was also big because, of course, we got the Olympics going on at the, in the summer. KD, Book, Ant all are on the team. Book, is he going to be the starter? No. Barely not. No. Anthony Edwards took that spot. Even though Book did his thing, which we'll talk about in this game. And claimed the spot. He claimed the throne and claimed himself, hey, we're talking about guys that are going to be one of the best players in the world one day. You need to put my name in that conversation. That is what he did in this series, and that is what he did in this game. This was his, this was his masterpiece. This was Ant's masterpiece. This early in his career, but this was definitely that first signature game that, when we look back at Anthony Edwards' career, we will remember this one. We will remember how he closed out possibly an era, but also how he closed out KD and the Suns. We will remember this game. All right, Cat also 28-10. Minnesota could not ask for a better number 2. And I mean that with no disrespect to Cat. He carried them through a lot of rough times. All right. It could have been much worse for Minnesota. I was talking about this in the group chat earlier. Could have been much worse for the Wolves. They could have had Jahlil Okafor. They could have had, D'Angelo Russell. They could have had Porzingis. But they got Cat. They chose him number 1. And, he has been that pillar that was necessary for this franchise. And now he's a big reason why the Timberwolves are as good as they are, kind of providing that offensive impact the same way that Rudy is providing the defensive impact in, terms of the Twin Towers. Which is another reason why I think the Wolves could be dangerous for the Nuggets, which is who they will have to play next round, by the way. Book had 49. Of course, he got denied by Ant on literally the last possession with that block of 50. But yeah, Book did everything he could. I'm not going to blame him. It was kind of unethical because he had 21 free throws, which, was very Embiid-esque. But the man had 49. Nonetheless, it was an elimination game. He did everything he could. Him and KD, honestly. KD had 33, 9, and 5. You can't really ask for much more from your two superstars. They did what had to be done. Maybe you could say, hey, they could have contributed better, and you be meticulous and be like, yo, he could have defended Ant better. He could have done this better. He could have done, but 49 and 33, 9, and 5, you can't really ask for more. However, if this is supposed to be a big 3, and once again, if I'm paying a man $50 million a year for a while, I expect a little bit more than 4 for 13, 9 points, and you had the same number of assists, 6, as you did turnovers. I expect just a little bit more than that, especially after you came out and said, I ain't never been swept in my life. I'll be damned if I get swept. Well, I guess you enjoy eternal damnation, Bradley Beal, because you got cooked, my brother. Like I said, Anthony Edwards took everything you ever had. Everything you ever had. The same way that you gave that, classic, motivational speech to Team Bill before EYBL, Cameron Fletcher, Caleb Love in the attendance for that, is what Ant did to you. That is what happened to you. He said, you can't guard me. You ain't here no more. Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves pulled the Jackson Storm. Lightning McQueen. That is exactly what happened. That is what happened last night. Edwards looked KD, Book, and Book is still a young player somewhat, or in his prime at least. Bill looked the rest of the generation and said, bye, I'm gone. This is my time. Snatched the torch. This was not a passing. No, this was a snatching, a mugging. Like I said, the Timberwolves and signature game, they dominate. They are looking, honestly, after that, they're up there with the Nuggets in terms of teams I think that can really pull this off. We will see what happens. Of course, by the way, wishing the best for Coach Finch. That is absolutely crazy for a head coach to get injured in a game. Nonetheless, better yet, a patellar tendon tear, which is, technically season ending if he was a player. So, I guess he'll be, coaching from a stool or a wheelchair or whatever, like Professor X. But, wishing the best for Finch. But, Wolves up good. Minnesota gets a sweep. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the roundup. Denny Hamlin collects his 3rd win of the year at the Monster Mile in Dover, which, it's what Denny does. It's what Denny does. It's nothing. I don't need to hype this up, by the way. I don't. It's what he does. Denny, one of the best to ever do it. He needs a championship, by the way, but one of the best to ever do it. One of the best to ever do it. This is why. Consistency. Consistently being elite. All right, whether you love him or hate him, you cannot deny that. And then he gets it done. His third win in Denver, or not Denver, but in Dover. We will see if he can keep the momentum rolling throughout the season. NHL, I said somebody else got swept. And while the rest of the teams we're going back and forth, we got a couple 3-1s brewing right now that we'll talk about next week, once they finish up or, if the second round starts. But the Washington Capitals, listen, the Rangers, some people were like, questioning how good is this Rangers team really? They won the President's best team in the league, number 1 seed, but there were still some questions, right? They're not one of the teams that have been dominant over this past era. They kind of had to build a team with the Breadman, Laffy, so on and so forth. Were they the real deal? Mika Zibanejad and Lafreniere went off in this series and said, Ovechkin, it is time for you to go and enjoy chasing that record, and that is all you're going to fight for. Because this was a clean sweep, all right? A second broomstick today as the Washington Capitals have been eliminated from the NHL first round by one President's Trophy winning New York Rangers. Like I said, Mika, Laffy, they were dominant. Panarin did what he had to do. Ovi has had better series and has had better times in the playoffs. But the Caps were never, there's kind of honestly, there's a big separation between the elite in the East and the teams that just made it. And this was an example. All right, this was simply put, this was an example. Rangers advance might be for real. I do not know. Listen, the black magic continues. All right, that's all I can say. The black magic continues. Bayern Leverkusen may never losing again. Never losing again. I don't know if Bayer Leverkusen will ever lose another game. The unbeaten streak, once again, for the 15,000th time this season, Leverkusen was either losing the game or in a tie. In this case, they were losing, all right, to Stuttgart in the 96th minute. Once again in stoppage time. And we've talked about this so many times on this podcast, you could fill in the blanks for me. Okay, once again, stoppage time, some ungodly hour, some divine intervention header, and once again, Leverkusen remains unbeaten. They're the team of destiny. They are the team of destiny. I don't know what Xabi Alonso has crafted, what spell he has put over this team, but honestly, you just tune in. You expect it now. If you see that they're losing going into stoppage time, you show up then. That is when you start watching, just so you can see what type of mystical goal they're going to pull out of their this time. That's it. But you know what? Shout out to BO4. It's been a great year for them. And they keep cooking. The Premier League is coming down to the wire. Now, Liverpool has all but, let's be honest, taken themselves out of the conversation because they're just kind of imploding. They're imploding. They crashed out of the Europa League. Salah and Klopp are fighting. They can't stop drawing opponents. They're finished. All right, I know mathematically they still have a shot, but it's done. All right, it's done. This is a 2-horse race in the Prem. You got Arsenal, who are at 80. And you got Man City, who are at 79. The only thing is that Man City does have a game. All right, Arsenal has 3 games left, all favorable. Man City has 4. I think this is really going to come down to Man City versus Spurs. If Spurs can beat Man City and Arsenal wins out, obviously Arsenal will win the title. If Man City can clean up the rest of the way, if they can beat Spurs, then they should be good. Of course, crazy things can happen. Anybody can get beat. But Man City, I would say, definitely has a little bit of an advantage having that game in hand. But we will see. Arsenal just has to keep applying pressure, keep finding ways to win, and get 9 points out of the possible 9 to, give them the best opportunity here. But it's going to be a very close race here to finish off the Premier League. Not UCLA, but the Champions League, the UCL, is back next week. So, yes, the fireworks will continue tomorrow. Semifinals, of course, Bayern, Real Madrid, PSG, Dortmund. Should be interesting. I'm assuming some chaos will ensue, and of course we'll talk about that next week on episode 196. UFC 201 is also, or 301 is also this week. Alexandre Potejo is taking on Urqueg in Brazil. I want to say Alexandre got it, but you know what? This division has been nothing but madness and no consistency. So, Urqueg can get it, but I would pick Pantoja. We will see what happens. Brazil is going to be very lively for this one. A lot of Brazilian fighters on the card as well, as UFC often does when you're fighting in a different country. So yeah, should be fun. Should be interesting. It's a little bit of a come down card. After a lot of massive cards with 297 was stacked, 298 was stacked, 299 was stacked, 300 was obviously stacked. So yeah, a little bit of a come down here at 301, but a nice reset. We'll see if Alexandre can put on the show and get the win. And to end us off here on episode 195, I would be amiss if I did not say and give a shout out and give flowers to the legend, one of the greatest women's college basketball players, one of the greatest women's professional basketball players to ever do it, Candace Parker, a player who really kind of defined an era, was a superstar. Before the Caitlin Clarks and Angel Reese's and Paige Buckers of the world, we had Candace Parker's. And yeah, she was an inspiration for a lot. What she did at Tennessee, and what she did at the Sparks, then when she went to Chicago, went back home, and of course what she's done lately with the Aces. But her career has come to an end. But yeah, shout out to Candace. Probably the first kind of, when I really started getting into sports overall, one of the first female superstars in any sport that I can really remember. I remember seeing what she was doing at Tennessee here in the States, and then the hype around her going to LA, then her winning MVP and Rookie of the Year, playing with Lisa in LA in that first year. It was really kind of a special moment in time. So yeah, shout out to Candace. Wish her all the best. One of the greatest to ever do it. And yeah, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed. We are back in the 704, but Ocho signing off.